Welcome to Founders Club, the show for real estate entrepreneurs. I'm out here today in Orange County in Newport Beach, about ready to interview Mike Ferry, which I'm really excited about. We're going to be talking about all sorts of stuff that you can implement right now into your business to grow and take your business to the next level. And we're also going to be talking about a bulletproof plan to crash-proof your business. Let's get started. To be jumping in here in a minute, and what we're drinking today is actually cream soda, since Mike is a non-drinker, and I actually haven't had one of these since I was a kid, and it's going down really good, so I appreciate it. IBC cream soda. Thanks a lot. Very excited to be here today with an extremely special guest, a longtime friend, a coach, a mentor, someone that has done a lot for me and Sam in our business, and not only that, and I don't even know if we've told you this story, but you're one of the main reasons that we got into real estate initially. So me and Sam, we were selling phones at the mall. We were those guys that stopped everyone. This is before everyone had a cell phone. Stopped them, tried to get them a free phone and all that. And so we were looking for different types of sales training. And a friend of ours went to one of your events, and he was like, man, you guys got to hear this sales training. It's related to real estate, but I think you guys would take a lot away from it. So we ended up going to one of the events in LA at, I don't remember what hotel it was, but this is probably like, I want to say 2005, 2006. Okay. And we left that seminar so excited about real estate that we were like, all right, we're going to implement everything. We were still doing phones at the time. We had ended up selling a couple houses to a couple of the people that we worked with and a couple of different friends, got a couple commission checks, and all of a sudden we like thought we had hit it big. Like we were the real deal. And then, I mean, from that moment on, we kind of took the plunge into real estate. And
good for you guys.
That's kind of how it all started for us with Mike. And so I just want to thank you for that. I don't think we've actually ever told you that story. So.
That's a good story. Thank you.
Yeah. So I just want to start with.
First of all, it's nice to know we have an influence.
Yeah. So it's working. Yeah. And I'm sure that.
I have to tell you why I say that, because in Las Vegas, where we live part of the time, or most of the time, and going to all the restaurants in the nice hotels on the Strip, it's very common that the waiter will walk up and say, "Oh, Mike Ferry, I'm also in real estate." And I've been to your seminars, and when they walk away, I always say to Serena, obviously it didn't work, because now you're a waiter.
You're still waiting tables.
So it worked for you.
Yes, it worked, yes.
Good for you.
Thank you very much. We greatly appreciate that and all the guidance that you've given us over the years. So just to kind of jump right in, you're kind of the undisputed heavyweight champion of the real estate coaching space.
I've lasted.
You've lasted. Okay. And you're an OG of the coaching space. So why do you think that is?
Probably because, number one, I'm very persistent. I don't quit. I've been doing it now for just under 44 years, the work that you and I have done together. Second is I teach common sense. You know, there's no magic formula, no magic bullet. And I think what attracted both yourself and Sam to me, and myself back to you guys, as you guys understood common sense. And the industry is always looking for a way for people to get rich without having to work. And as the industry climbs and the market gets good, which we both experienced the last 6 or 7 years, more and more people that teach the magic formulas. And let's face it, the industry, you understand this, you guys have, 1,000, 1,100 agents now in your company. Half of them don't even know what selling is. And the other half are trying to figure it out. And that's a normal real estate company. So common sense then becomes really important to an agent. And what we teach is if you don't know how to talk to people, you're not going to do deals. Mm-hmm. And that stops most of them at the door. So I think it's just common sense.
And you're exactly right. That is what attracted us to you at the beginning. Is I've always appreciated the no nonsense approach, and the things that you teach are things that anybody can do. And there's all these gurus that have the magic pills, but at the end of the day, no matter how many leads you get, no matter how many leads you buy, no matter how many leads you generate, if you can't close, if you can't follow up, if you can't present,
that's right,
you're not going to get very far. You're going to end up spinning your wheels and probably spending a whole ton of money.
Or you're going to be another number of people that came in and left. And
Right.
And I always say the turnover is not caused by financial independence. The turnover is caused by the fact they can't make a penny.
Yep.
So we can teach them how to make money if they're willing to learn to do that. And the problem you and I face, and Sam and I talk about it all the time, is that if half the people come into the business with no sales experience at all, and I mean not even a retail standing in a store, doing anything, to take a person 35, 40, 50, 60 years old and then get them to change that behavior pattern. If I'm not persistent, it doesn't work.
Yeah. And I'm sure battling all the naysayers doesn't help either.
If I had an extra dollar for every naysayer, you and I wouldn't be talking, because I'd be on an island I owned in Hawaii.
Yeah, you'd own the island.
In Hawaii.
Why do you think that sales piece is missing from a lot of the things that people teach in real estate?
Well, I think the biggest thing is sales is confrontational. You have to meet somebody. We're good. Hi, Oliver. My name is Mike.
Great to meet you.
You have to be able to do that. And if you can't do that, you have a problem to start. Second, if you don't know what to say beyond the "Hi, my name is Mike," you're at a loss. And very few people understand that sales can be very confrontational. It can also be very confusing. Mm-hmm. It can also be a lot of fun and obviously very profitable. So the reason the sales segment is so difficult, I believe, is that most people, well, if the average age is 57 of a real estate agent today in the U.S., mm-hmm. Okay, how old are you now, Oliver?
38.
Okay, and Sam is probably about the same?
36.
All right, so you guys are young enough to understand that if you don't change your behavior, you're not going to change the result. Mm-hmm. At 57, getting a person to change their behavior is a much bigger challenge because they're set in their ways. So the sales piece is missing because people are not willing to change. And second, brokers are afraid to teach it because they're afraid agents are going to get mad and quit if they have to teach them how to sell. And if they get mad and quit, then they have to go recruit. And recruiting is back to selling. Mm-hmm. So the challenge is the fact that I don't want to change my behavior. And if I'm a broker, I certainly don't want to lose you, even though you may never do anything.
Even though you haven't done a deal in 24 months?
Yes, I don't want to lose you, because if I lose you, then I have to replace you. And that means I have to go out and prospect, present, and close. Mm-hmm. So it's an interesting dilemma, okay, that this industry has faced for the entire 50 years I've been in real estate. And that is that complete, almost irregular, maybe even unethical behavior pattern of not saying to an agent, if you want to sell real estate, you have to learn to sell. Mm-hmm. That goofy thing that's online all the time, a real estate agent is a matchmaker. I bring a buyer and seller together for the wedding. I mean, I'm not going to be crude, but I could be crude with that kind of a statement.
Yeah. It's interesting too, because we obviously experience that as well in trying to teach agents how to grow their business on the sales side. And there's almost like a block to it, which I can't fully understand, because I look at, like, I have fun with sales. I look at it like, it's a dance, and you got to dance with the other person, sure. And you got to make the rhythm and not step on each other's toes.
That's right.
And so what do you say to the people that want to learn how to sell better, or want to kind of figure out that gap and how to close it?
Well, the biggest thing, bringing an agent into real estate today, is do you have the financial wherewithal to last that first 6 to 8 to 9 months? Mm-hmm. Because let's face it, if we take in the U.S. today an average sales price of $300, $325, average commission maybe 5%, divide on half, 2.5, and the average agent in most of the country is going to start on a 60-70% split. We're not talking about that much money. It looks good on paper, but it's not good in reality on the check. So if they don't have the financial wherewithal to last, that's the first thing. And then second, are you willing to do the things that I say as the broker to make money in this business soon? And if they can't commit to that, there's really very little chance. I mean, the turnover it's so high. And of course, the problem is a lot of them have turned over, but nobody told them. So the brokers never said, by the way, you haven't sold a home in 24 months, adios.
Yeah.
So, it's the never-ending challenge of financial ability to last. And then second, the ability of a person to change. Because if I say to you, okay, if you take this script and use it, you're going to get listings. I don't like it, you can't make me, I don't want to. That person said I didn't have to say that. So technically, you and I, who are in the business of training people how to produce, we have to overcome a series of obstacles to get them to produce. And if they will get on our side, they can leap over those things a lot faster. I tell people, real estate is such a hard business to succeed in, and that's why that many do. They won't overcome the obstacles that are in front of them. Alan Dalton, who I'm sure you probably know, and a really smart guy, he used to say all the time that if the industry would ever tell the agents the truth about the business, we would only have 200,000 agents in the industry.
Yeah.
But the industry won't tell the truth about the business, so we have 1,200,000 agents in the industry.
You've got the TV shows and all that make it look so easy.
Get rich quick.
Yeah.
Buy a home, flip it, make 60,000.
Exactly. They're all winners.
Yeah, that's right.
So I think you hit on one of the things that does block people in terms of sales, and that's the not knowing what to say. One thing that Mike's done a really good job of is putting together scripts for almost every type of situation, all the objection handlers. So if not knowing what to say is something that is a challenge for you, I would say go to Mike Ferry's site and download all the scripts and start getting familiar with them and start learning what to say. And we tell people this a lot. So, and one of the things that we hear back is that they feel robotic or they don't want to work off of a script. So how do you, I'm sure you hear that all the time as well. What do you say to that?
I've only heard it every day for 44 years.
Yeah.
Well, you better hope if you're having surgery, the doctor has a script. If a commercial flight flies over, you better hope the pilot has a script. The flight attendant has a script. When they stand up and say, fasten your seatbelts, it's a script. The accountant doing your tax records better follow the script or you'll go to jail at some point. Obviously, a professional golfer, tennis player, football, basketball, baseball, college sports, it's all scripted. There's a playbook. IBM has a playbook. Xerox has a playbook for teaching their salespeople. That's two of the long-term better training courses in sales. Toastmasters has a playbook. Dale Carnegie has a playbook. If your wife is cooking a meal, it's called a recipe. It's a playbook. And what I don't understand is why...
Are you guys picking this up? It's a playbook.
It's a playbook. I mean, that's all. So what we did for myself, or I did for myself back in 1970, is I recognized that if I didn't have a playbook, I couldn't succeed. So all I did was listen to other agents, listen to buyers and sellers, and then start writing the scripts to proceed and to get them to move forward. And what's interesting is most of the scripts that they can find today, I wrote in 1970, and they're as prevalent today as they were in 1970.
And that's because the objections don't change. The needs of the seller don't change. The basics of the business don't change.
That's right.
And so having that playbook is an important part of the tool belt.
Well, what's interesting, and you guys know this as well as anybody, Oliver, is that the industry is not going to say you need to learn the script. And yet, if the president of the local board or a major franchise or even NAR stands up to give a speech, it's always a script. At one of the national conventions, the president of the company was in front of 2,000 people. And I was watching him from the back, and I thought, this guy is really good. And then I looked up, and way up in the ceiling was a giant monitor. He was reading the whole thing. And I complimented him on how well he read it. He goes, well, I had to practice it like 100 times. Well, it's a script. And, you have a script you're following, and my answers aren't going to change, so it's a script. If we can ever get them to understand that knowing what to say gives them the confidence to go do what they're supposed to do. And if they don't know what to say, they're not going to do it, which is why the failure rate's so high. And why your top agents succeed at such a high level.
That's right. That's exactly right. And just to bring your point full circle, that is exactly why I'm sitting here with a yellow pad, which I learned from you. I've never seen you speak without a yellow pad.
That's right.
And it's the way to keep everything together. It makes me just go right down the list. It makes it more efficient. We're not wasting time. We're not BSing, talking about other things that don't fit the narrative. So very cool. Learn the scripts, learn what to say, learn how to close.
But may I interject something?
Yeah.
Over Thanksgiving weekend, they had the big match between Tiger and Phil, professional golfers. And I read an article, I watched it, and I've played with both those guys. Okay, I've played in tournaments with both these fellows, and they're phenomenal. Everything about them is so practiced and routined. If you yelled at them in the middle of the night, hit a 9-iron, they'd stand up and swing it perfectly, okay? Which is what you want. But it's interesting because that day, Phil spent, from what I've read, the entire week at Shadow Creek practicing on that golf course. The day of the event, which was at 12 o'clock Pacific Standard Time, Tiger got there at 9, started practicing for 3 hours prior. Phil got there 45 minutes later. These are the best in the world. So the key to the scripting is not just having it, it's practicing it so it becomes part of you. I don't want you to use Mike Ferry's script. I want you to take the words and make them you, because each of you are going to say them in a manner that is better for you and that result for the customer.
That's right. That's exactly.
So without the practice, it's a waste of time.
So just to touch on the practice part, how would you recommend that people practice these things like that? Because I agree, the objection handlers, if you read them, they can come across very robotic, but once you practice them and internalize them, and you can just spit them out as soon as you hear, oh, I don't want to list for 90 days, or, oh, I'm not ready for this or that reason, then you can go into your question-based objection handling and kind of take them through the process.
I use the example because we live in Las Vegas full-time, and we live in a high-rise right on the Strip, so my wife and I go to a lot of the shows. And we enjoy seeing all the different types of entertainment, and there's every kind you can imagine there. And a couple times we've seen Tony Bennett, who is now 92, 93. And we saw him 10 years ago, he was 80. And he walked out on the stage, and of course, many of the young people may not know that name, but he's legendary in the industry of singing. And he's singing his most famous song, which is I Left My Heart in San Francisco. And he's singing a cappella. There's no music behind him. And it's just stunning. There's 2,000 people in the audience. And as he's singing, he's got his hand on the piano. And in the middle of the song, somebody in the audience yelled out, "Sing it." He stopped, looked into the audience and said, "What do you think I'm doing?" Went right back to the word he stopped on and continued the song.
Amazing.
Well, as a real estate agent, if you can't perform at that level, somebody else can.
Yep.
And that only comes through practice.
And those are the people that are going to come get the deals.
That's right. You know, you're going to get beat if you don't know what to say. And watch, you can say, well, I don't like the robotic side. Well, then don't be robotic, be yourself, but learn what to say so you can be yourself.
That's exactly right.
It is not natural to swing at a golf club with the power of a Tiger Woods or Phil Mickelson. It is not natural. That is a learned process, as it is not natural to do what Michael Jordan did as an NBA player. That's a learned skill that comes through thousands of hours of practice. So the answer really, Oliver, is they start every morning with 30 minutes of script practice. I did it in 1970. The agents thought I was crazy until I outproduced them all.
Yeah.
Interesting.
It's amazing what happens once they see it working.
Yeah.
Let me take a step back now, and I want to talk about Mike Ferry in the early days and how you kind of ventured into the coaching side, and then at what point did you realize that this is what I want to do? This is my thing. I'm good at this.
I wasn't any good at it, but I ventured anyhow. Okay. I don't know if I've shared this with you and Sam, Oliver, but in October 1988 at the Fairmont Hotel in San Francisco, which is the top of Nob Hill, beautiful place, I have 400 agents in a 4-day action workshop. And I am telling you, there was a total disconnect between me and that audience. And that happens. I mean, I've done this, almost 7,000 times in my career, and sometimes it doesn't work. So I'm the first to say to you, believe me, you're looking at a guy where it doesn't work. This day, it was not working. So at the end of the second day, I was young, and I was getting angry at their lack of response. You can't get angry at a customer and expect to win. So I said to the audience, I've got a great idea. Every one of you should write me a check for $5,000, bring it to the seminar tomorrow. And if you bring me a check, I'll call you every week for the next year and tell you what to do. And if you do what I tell you, you're going to win big. And then I just walked off the stage. Well, the next morning I walk in, and there was a table up in front where I had my notes. There was several hundred business cards in a big stack. So I said to the audience, anybody know what these cards are? And a guy said, those are the people that want to give you a check for $5,000 if you'll call them every week. That's how the coaching started. So I said, I'm going to call 50 of you in the next couple of days. The first 50 that send me the check, I'll start. That's how the coaching started. And quite honestly, all I did was I would call, hi, Oliver, it's Mike. Are you ready? Yes, good. I want you to do this and this for the next 7 days. Talk to you next week. Sometimes the coaching calls were 3 or 4 or 5 minutes. And that's how it evolved to today. We think that we're pretty good at helping an agent. But the catch, and you know this better than anybody, the catch with the coaching, as with the training, is if they're not willing to do what the coach says, the only one that's going to win is the coach.
Right.
And we don't want to win. We want us to win. You and Sam, when we talk, you guys have to win to make this relationship work.
Right.
You have to know what to do so your customer wins, and if the customer wins, you win.
Yeah.
So it really evolved. And Tim Wood, Bob McKinnon, my son Matt, my son Tom, there were 4 or 5 of us that I brought on as coaches in the very beginning. And we would talk almost every day at the end of the day. What did you say? What did you say? How did you handle this? What did you say then? What did they do? And we would work on it every day to have this coaching evolve to what it is today. And now, when I started the coaching, we were the first coaching company for probably 6 or 7 years. People say to me, you know, I was coaching with so-and-so back in 1996, and they were the first coaching company. You mean the one that started 8 years after I started?
Right. So how do you stay at the top with all of these other people trying to...
I'm not at the top. I don't even know where on the ladder I am anymore, okay? And I don't think I've ever shared this with you and Sam. In probably late 70s, I had written a goal, be the #1 real estate speaker in the United States. And I pinned that up in my office, okay, which was only about a mile from here at that time, where we're sitting. And I had that up for a year, and I'd look at it every day. And then one day I walked in, and I took the pin out, I ripped it in half and threw it away. And my assistant said, why did you throw that away? I said, well, because if I am #1, how do I know? Am I going to get an award? Am I going to get a letter? Am I going to get a trophy? You can't identify. There's no way to hold me accountable to that. So I gave up on that whole thought. Today, every speaker, every coach, every trainer, every real estate company is #1. I'm trying to meet the guy that's #2.
Yeah.
Because I'm probably #5, okay?
That's a funny way to look at it, but
well,
I get what you're saying, 100%.
So what I try to do is I try to be the most knowledgeable in the market I'm dealing in. And this will bother some of our viewers, and if you're bothered, it's okay, because you can turn it off. Come back to him, but don't come back to me, and I'm okay with that. What I have to say is, I don't think there's anybody that does the work I do that has a better understanding of the real estate industry, day-to-day operations, day-to-day recruiting, day-to-day sales and management. I can talk to agents about things my competition can't discuss because they don't have the experience. So I can stay abreast because I keep learning every day. And you know, today it is 1:10 on a Tuesday, and this morning at 5 o'clock, 5:30, 6 o'clock, 6:30, 7 o'clock, 7:30, 8 o'clock, 8:30, 9 o'clock, 9:30, and 10 o'clock, I did 11 coaching calls with 11 top producers this morning.
Wow.
Yesterday I did 16 coaching calls. I do them on Monday and Tuesday. And I deal with the best brokers and the best agents. And even if I don't want to learn, I'm learning.
Yeah.
And then I try to pass it on. I pass on what you and Sam will say to other good brokers like yourselves. So if I'm near the top, it's because my mind is open.
Yeah.
Open your mind.
And keep learning, because I think that's an important part too.
That's right.
Because you're learning from all the best people as you're
That's right.
coaching them, and then
That's
you're
right.
able to share that information. And by all of us collectively learning and sharing with one another, I think that's how everyone kind of rises
right.
together. So I love that. That's great insight on the whole sales process, and kind of neat to hear how you kind of started the coaching thing from scratch. What would you say, as you were building the company, was your biggest challenge or biggest hurdle that you had to overcome?
In the beginning, there was very few hurdles. the hurdles were internal, helping me learn how to coach. So I read probably 100 books on coaching. I went and found every book written by every professional sports coach, because every professional sports coach that wins, whether it be hockey or football or baseball or basketball or college, they read a book. Okay, which is, I love that because I read them all. So the biggest challenge was not external, it was external. Then the second challenge was being able to find, and I was very lucky to have 5 or 6 key people that I trusted to become coaches. Then the challenge was trying to get the companies. Okay, so now watch this. You and Sam have never had a challenge with me having your people at my seminar. Because if your people were at my seminar and they went back and produced more,
Everybody
your people
wins.
won, you and Sam won, and the customers won. So the biggest challenge I faced was trying within all the major franchises to get the training director not to screw up the program. Because the training directors became the hurdle between myself and the company allowing me to train.
Very interesting. So like they would come back and say, oh, don't do that, or you do it this.
Well, they want to edit everything I say. So I would say if a customer says, I want you to cut the commission, I say, smile and say no, any other questions? Oh, no, don't say it that way. They could get mad. Well, how are you going to say it? How much do you want me to cut it?
Right.
So the biggest hurdle then was the training directors. So then what I realized is I had to quit relying on organizations. I had to rely on individuals. So then I started accumulating a database of individuals that accepted what I had to say. So like today, we have 400,000 names in our database. And of those 400,000, we probably have about 86,000 what we call real customers. Okay? A lot of your agents, obviously you and Sam. And people say, well, God, that's a big group of customers. There's 1.2 million agents in the country. We have 86,000. We're that big. So the next hurdle was really accepting the fact that most people are never going to do what I was going to say. And that was probably the biggest hurdle, because I believe so strongly, as you and I know, in what I say, that for people to openly, criticize me every day, whether it be in the news media, in the newspapers, in newsletters, and companies banning me. I mean, I got banned by everybody. I still have companies today that banned me from speaking 40 years later, and the people that banned me don't even know why they banned me.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
So that's got to be mentally draining for you. It's got to be mentally challenging. How do you continue the fight? How do you continue to keep swinging?
If you don't believe in yourself, the vote is unanimous. Okay? And I believe in myself, and I believe in what we do, and I believe in my customers and the success they have. But, and I've shared this with you in the past, but, I wasn't the brightest bulb in the pack going to school here locally. Flunked out of college my freshman year, which I did. Barely made it out of high school, okay? I went to a Catholic high school in Santa Ana. But I got lucky to have a couple of guys that said, if you don't read 300 books a year, every year for the rest of your life, you're always going to be stupid. I've never done it, but I've read about 200 books a year for the last 50 years. So just before you folks walked in, I was reading. And my wife says, if you watch Mike Ferry, if he's not engaged in an activity personally or in the business that is on purpose, he's reading. I read all day long, every day. And that keeps the mind active, and it blocks out all the crap.
Now I want to transition a little bit.
Sure.
I know that there's a lot of fear out there and paranoia about the market changing and different technologies that are coming in. So I just kind of want to talk about that a little bit.
They call them the disruptors.
The disruptors, exactly. Yeah. So before we get to the disruptors, what do you think about the current state of the real estate market and what kind of we can expect for the next 12 to 18 months?
As I shared with you, we're publishing today, and all of your people will be able to go online, your customers.
Yeah, we'll put a link to that, to the market report that you guys put together.
It's called Mike Ferry's 2019 Market Report, and its title is A Normal versus Abnormal Real Estate Market. And all I talk about is the fact that if you follow our industry, which you guys do carefully, every 5 to 6 years, the market takes a dip. So we had 1998 to 2006, market going like that. Little glitch in 2000, but pretty minor. 2007, 8, 9, not a little glitch.
Fell off a cliff.
Fell off a cliff
Yeah.
and pretty much died. I mean, it was almost on resuscitation the whole time, life support. Didn't come back till 2012. So that was the longest dip we've ever experienced. And that was world economy, not just real estate. 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, market went like that. Mm-hmm. Well, if you believe that the market is cyclical, which it is, and it runs in 5 to 6 year cycles, we are completely due for a normal dip.
Pullback. Right.
So the challenge here we have in December, and I probably shouldn't be saying what month because you probably published this in January. The problems we have in December is every October, November, December, we have a normal decline. It's just history.
Business.
So we have a normal fourth quarter decline along with a 5 to 6 year decline simultaneously, along with some financial unrest in the financial markets. Look at the stock market. The fact that as many people hate Trump as like Trump creates a lot of concern financially for people. So you take all those factors. We had the midterm elections, which the Democrats are happy, Republicans are mad, depending on which side you're on. We're in for a little recession. Mm-hmm. It's called normal. And when you have a normal market, it's either going to go flat or it's going to decline 12, 15%. If you look at most of the country, except for the Midwest, because the Midwest is stable, they don't have appreciation, therefore they don't have depreciation. Don't get mad, but then you have to live in Iowa.
Right.
My parents are from Iowa, so I can say that. Iowa stands for idiots out walking around. That's from my dad. He's from Iowa, so don't get mad. Okay? You'll get a nasty letter on that one.
Sure.
I'm from Iowa. Where do you live now? California. You moved, you walked out. Okay? So I have fun too, by the way. Well, if you look at that and you say, okay, we're going to have a 15, 20% decline, and we go from 5 million to 4 million sales in 2008, 2019, we're back to a normal market. It's no get rich quick. It's no taking a listing, having 3 offers in 24 hours. Listings will expire. Buyers aren't going to sell. Interest rates will go up. All these are happening as we speak.
Yep.
So what we're training our customers is to be more aggressive, because if you look at the fact that the average agent does, say, 4 deals a year, every 4 that you add to your production, you're putting one of the bad agents out of business, which helps the business. So I'm a huge fan of a recession, because our customers win at a much higher level.
Because it just cleans out the industry, out the...
There's going to be at least 4 million transactions in 2019. Right. At least, probably 4.4, 4.5. For goodness sakes, how many do you want?
I'm excited as well. I think there's going to be a lot of opportunities. A lot of things are going to shift, which is usually good if you're on top of things.
Yeah.
And you said, you mentioned being more aggressive into this coming market. So what does that look like on a day-to-day?
Well, first of all, really knowing your scripts so you can outperform the people that are performing. But it's being more aggressive in your lead follow-up. If the person doesn't have to sell, don't get mad. Don't talk to them. Why waste your time? Okay? If you walk into a doctor's office and the doctor says, "What's the problem, Oliver?" and you say nothing, he's going to say, "Well, then what are you here for?" Okay?
Yeah, exactly.
Move aside. I got patience. So that's being a lot more aggressive in lead follow-up, being much stronger in pre-qualifying. Because with interest rates edging up, buyers are going to have a tougher time, which means sellers are going to have a tougher time. Mm-hmm. So pre-qualify for motivation of the seller, pre-qualify for the ability of the buyer. Be stronger in your presentation skills, because those that are standing are going to be better than they were in the past. So it's just a matter of upgrading what you do. Mm-hmm. Okay, so in January at Caesar's Palace, we'll have 2,000 agents for our annual production retreat. And it'll be the strongest presentation I ever make, because we're in a declining market. So I have to be stronger with my audience, who are my best customers.
Yeah.
Okay. Be stronger and you win. That's what I mean by aggressive.
Okay. That's great. Great advice.
Probably more than you wanted.
No, that's. I mean, at the end of the day, I think that's a really important soundbite, because if again, back to the initial point of it doesn't matter how many leads you generate or buy or whatever, if you're not able to aggressively follow up.
That's right.
And to your point, weed out the people that aren't ready to go so that you're not spinning your wheels and just continuing to grind until you get to those people that are raising their hand and are ready and are motivated.
Yeah.
And just clearing everyone else out of the way.
Or as you've heard me say, when I'm prospecting, I'm not looking for the no's, I'm looking for the one yes. I may have to go through 30, 50, 100 no's to get to the yes, but it's out there. So it's aggressively pursuing it.
And so to the people that are out there and they're doing that and they're getting punched in the face every day by the no's, what is your advice to them to stay strong and stay committed? And
it's called life, okay? I mean, I do a seminar with 100 people or 500 or 2,000, and I'm going to have 25% of the audience long-term customers, and they're usually sitting in front. That's where you and Sam are always sitting. And I feed off that. And then I have 75% of the audience that probably is wondering why they're there. And I always kid, I'll say, some of you were sent here by your broker, and you look like you were sent because you have the deer in the headlights look.
Right.
So I'm used to massive rejection. Okay, it's just part of the job that I have. But again, see, I'm not looking for the no, I'm looking for the yes. So I'm going to say to all of your great listeners and viewers, the one person that lists or buys from you, that is the win in your day, your week, your month. Cherish that. And you remember, you had to go through 10, 20, 30 no's to get to that cherishing moment. Enjoy the experience.
Yeah.
If you can enjoy the experience, guess what?
That's the win.
That's
now
the
go
win.
celebrate.
Yeah. Now, some people pat themselves in the back and they dislocate their shoulders, okay, because they only have one win a year.
Yeah. Or they'll celebrate the win and go on vacation for 2.5 months.
We see it all the time.
Yeah. So don't do that. Be more aggressive and stay on top of what you're doing. Now let's talk about the disruptors.
Sure.
I'd love to get your thoughts on the people that are...
your company's a disruptor.
We've been called that before, yes.
You were a disruptor before it was a word being used.
Yeah, thank you. I guess. I think that's good.
It's a compliment.
I'd love to know your thoughts on companies like Purple Bricks that are trying to basically, seems like, eliminate the agent from the equation, compress commissions, things like that. What are you saying to agents on how to prepare for that?
First of all, it's not new, okay? I started in the residential side as an agent in 1970. Prior to that, I was working in the title insurance field and the escrow business. And what we have to understand is there's always going to be innovators, and I prefer to call them innovators versus disruptors. Innovators meaning they're going to try to bring ideas to us that make us uncomfortable, or they use those ideas to recruit us. And either one of those is good. However, unless they are completely financed at the highest level, they usually come into the market going like this. And don't get mad at me if you're with one of them. They usually go away when it starts to dip down. Now, a couple of them today, like Compass, seems to be incredibly well financed. If you're with Compass, congratulations. However, I wonder how long the technology money behind you is going to stay with you if the market takes a 12% dip. Because those investors, the private equity, they want a return. So I'm concerned about some of my friends that go to some of these disruptor-oriented companies, because if they're not financially, and now they all claim they're financially stable, but everybody says they are, including the guy that's credit card.
Until they're not.
Yeah, including the guy that's credit card is maxed out. So I'm not concerned. I support anybody that is willing to help an agent succeed at a high level. However, at the same time, I'm very critical of almost everybody, because if they're trying to do it with a magic formula, then I'm concerned. And if I look at EXP, which has done a great job, or even KW at the level they operate at, or Compass or Purple Bricks, they all have advantages, but you have advantages. So it's not the disruption, it's how well can you present your advantages to those people, whether it be the agent you're trying to recruit or the public you're trying to list. If you're better at your presentation, it doesn't matter who you really work for. But if you're not good at your presentation, who you work for becomes a factor. Don't get mad at me. I don't want the label on my card to be the reason they list with me. I want the extension of the service I offer to the company I work for to be the reason.
Right.
And that's hard for people to understand.
And I really love that perspective too, because the way I look at it is the market is so big that I personally believe that there's room for
everybody,
these disruptors, innovators to come in and get a piece of the pie. But at the end of the day, Rolls-Royce is not worried about Kia coming in and taking their business.
That's right.
And the Ritz-Carlton is not worried about Motel 6 taking their business because they offer different things and they have different advantages. And
they both win.
And they both win. And there's room for everyone.
And probably the biggest home in Newport Beach is owned by the guy that founded Motel 6. It's up on the hill.
Is that Tom Bodett?
Tom Bodett.
We'll leave the light on for you.
And at night, his mansion is lit. You can see it from outer space.
He leaves the light on for you.
He leaves the lights
I can
on.
appreciate that.
But I agree with you. The mom and pop shops are never going to go away. The traditional agent is never going to go away. And probably some of the disruptors will go away because some of the mom and pop shops will retire, get purchased, merge, get tired. So it's that ebb and flow. It's the balance. Okay. Somebody said to me one time, if all the sinners go to hell, which is what my church, the Catholic Church, believes in, does that mean all the ones that aren't sinning go to heaven? I said, well, there has to be a balance. We call it purgatory. Okay? So in real estate, there's always going to be a balance. And if you understand the balance, you can work for the worst company and succeed, and work for the best company and not succeed.
Yep.
So the label, don't get mad, isn't going to be the difference. It's the relationship between you and the company and you and your client that's going to make the difference.
And the value that you're, at the end of the day, providing.
The value the broker provides for the agent and the value the agent provides for the buyer and seller.
Yeah.
And if you can't present that value, you can't win. I had surgery on my ear a couple of months ago. I had cancer, so they cut off a third of this ear. And I remember saying to the surgeon before the surgery, so tell me again, how does this work? She goes, well, it's really simple. I said, oh, is that right? She goes, yeah. She said, what we'll do is we're just going to take a little slice out of your ear, and then we're going to pull it together and stitch it up. Believe me, you'll be out of here in 45 minutes. I went, God, that's great. Holy crap. It wasn't that easy, okay? And of course, I had a patch on the side of my head this big for about 3 weeks. However, she was so reassuring to me. Your sellers and buyers want to be reassured that you can do the job.
And not only that, she's had the schooling and the preparation and the skills to be able to do that in 15 minutes or whatever, an hour or whatever, however long it took, to just be able to cut it out and stitch it back up again, right? Made it sound so easy.
Supposedly I'm clear, so that's the name of the game.
Yeah.
It's funny because a couple weeks later, I'm at my regular GP doctor, and he goes, wow, that surgeon did a good job. I said, how do you know? He said, Mike, I'm a doctor, I know.
Exactly.
Well, is the house priced right? Yes. How do I know? Because I'm an expert at pricing property. I know.
Great distinction. Love that. Great thoughts too on the disruption and all that stuff, because I know it's a big concern for a lot of people out there, but at the end of the day, you've just got to add more value and present it in a way that makes people want to work with you and use your advantages.
My son Matthew is just a really smart young man, and he loves to sing and he loves to write music. And as he and I have talked for many, many years, if in Hollywood you want to find a great actor or actress, you just say, hey, waiter, okay?
Yeah.
Because they're all there. Well, Matthew understands there's millions of people with great voices and millions of great songwriters. It's that little percentage that perfects the presentation that get on the stage.
Yeah, yeah.
It's tough.
It is. It's what do you always say? I love your line about it's simple, but it's not easy.
Simple but not easy.
Yeah.
That's right.
Because the concepts are simple, but it's a grind. You got to get out there and pound the pavement and do the work. So I've got a couple of questions from Facebook, actually, when I announced that we were going to be interviewing you.
Good.
And this one is coming from Wes Ives. So shout out to Wes. he said, what should agents that are stuck at a certain production level do to beat the funk and do what they need to do to get to the next level?
And what's interesting, Wes, is they get they get stuck at 2 deals a year, and they get stuck at 100 deals a year. Several years ago, Karen Bernardi, who you know, called me and she said, God, I'm so complacent. I said, Karen, you're making $2 million a year. She goes, I know, but I've been at that level for 3 years. Okay, what do I do? So it's the same question at every level of productivity. You've got to expose your mind to ideas that make you uncomfortable, Wes. You've got to expose your mind to people that make you uncomfortable. You've got to expose your mind to getting yourself out of your comfort zone physically, mentally, emotionally, and financially. So at the retreat last summer in Las Vegas, I just went right down the front row, about 50, 60 people, and asked each one of them in front of the audience, what kind of car do you drive? And they would tell me, and I'd say, come on, get a real car. And I'd go to the next one, what kind of car do you drive? And I challenged them all. I said, you folks all make $1 million or more a year as real estate agents. Why don't you buy a real car? Okay? Buy a Bentley, buy a Rolls Royce, buy a Ferrari, buy a Maserati. Well, a bunch of them did. Now they're all going, man, I'm making way more money now that I did it. I'm never one to try to suggest you go into debt, Wes, but if you don't challenge yourself financially. So we had an agent, and I apologize, I can't remember his name, from Phoenix, sitting in a seminar here in Newport Beach. Been in my seminars, Oliver, for years. And one day I said to him in front of the room, how many deals do you do? And he told me, and I said, how do you live on that? I said, you've been coming to my seminars for years and you're at the same place for 5 years. So I'm going to tell you in front of this audience that if you don't go out and earn an extra $60,000 this year, you're never going to be allowed to attend a seminar again. And to hold you accountable, you have to send me a statement every month on the extra $5,000 and putting it in a savings account.
I love that.
And I did this in front of 500 people. And everybody cheered for him to do it. Well, a year later, he had sent me statements. He had put an extra 60 grand in a savings account. Came to the seminar. He was all excited. He told us the story. We all applauded. I said, okay, let's go a step further. I've seen that sport coat now for 5 or 6 years. So at lunch, I took him up to Gary's men's store in Fashion Island. And I said to my sales guy, he's going to spend $10,000 in the next hour. So
get him decked out.
Deck him out and bring back the receipts. His eyes were this big. I said, you got the money? Well, he comes back an hour later and he had spent about $9,000. So in front of the audience, I said, now you have to go do the same thing for your wife and you get home tomorrow.
Ooh.
Well, he did.
Yeah.
So a year later.
The girls like that one.
Our producers and directors are cheering.
Yeah.
A year later, I said, what kind of car do you drive? Well, he had like a Honda. At lunch, I took him to the Mercedes dealer. And I said to my sales gal, Lorna, sell him a Mercedes, but it has to have at least a 5 in the number on the back. He got the car. A year later, now every year people are cheering for him. A year later, we went from his $200,000 home to a $600,000 home. If you're not willing to commit, Wes, you're never going to change your life. Sometimes it takes outside accountability.
Yeah, and that was great. I love that piece of advice because it's not necessarily about taking on expenses you can't afford. It's more having the mind shift of how do I go about affording this and taking my game to the next level. It's the same way when I just recently had kids. I have a 1 and a 3-year-old. And before you have kids, there's always the mental game of, oh man, how am I going to afford this? Like diapers and food and clothes and this and that. Right. It's an extra, it's an extra $1,000 a month per kid, whatever. And then all of a sudden, you replay that thought in your mind over and over again. And how am I going to do this? How am I going to do this? How am I going to get to the next level? And after a while, you just start noticing opportunities in your business that maybe were a little bit hidden, or maybe you didn't find initially, or you're just willing to make those extra phone calls or close that extra one more time to be able to get those things.
So I'll give you my other side to what Oliver just said about 1 and 3.
1 and 3.
Somebody said, define a child. I said, it's a 50-year mortgage at a high interest rate.
Yeah, exactly right.
So you got to find a lot more people.
Yeah, got a ways to go.
So Wes, upgrade.
Yeah, upgrade, challenge yourself, buy new things, do cool stuff, set big goals.
That's right.
All of that. So got another Facebook question. This one is from Josh Massey, and it says, what's it like competing with your son, Tom?
Fun. Because we've been competing ever since he was a child. He's very competitive, and his father is as competitive. We just played golf on Sunday here. We had so much fun. We played with one of our good customers, George Morris, and we had bets on every hole and bets on every shot. It's fun.
Yeah.
Tom's really bright, okay, and Tom is very enthusiastic, and Tom is very inspirational, motivational. I'm much more logical in my approach to what we do than Tom is. But somebody said to me recently, it's Tom Ferry versus Mike Ferry and Mike Ferry versus Tom Ferry. Who's the best? I said, who's ever in front of that audience at that time? Because the truth is, I have always felt, Oliver, if I'm not in front of an audience, somebody else will be in front of that audience. And the audience is going to like that person. Because it's a matter of who's ever in front at the moment is the one the audience likes. So, we've had a contentious, we've had an exciting, we've had a combative father-son relationship. And the truth is, he's really good at what he does, and I'm really good at what I do. And he thinks he's better, and I know I'm better, so it's fun.
Yeah. So everybody, it's good, friendly competition. It's fun watching you guys kind of go head to head.
Sure.
In that department.
Well, and Tom, he's great because he will say to me on a regular basis, "How close are you to retirement?" I said, "Well, now, Tom, I'm only 73, and if I retire, I have to live on Social Security, and that's $3,100 a month." And that wouldn't even pay 2 days of the rent on this place.
Yeah, exactly.
So don't look for that.
Good. Well, we'll look forward to having you around a lot longer then.
I'm hoping.
Yeah, definitely. Let's see. Oh, this was actually one that came up a lot, which I was amused by. And this is Kathy Bethel Daniel. What did you do with your yacht?
Sold it, which most people don't know. We were up in the Hamptons on our yacht. We took
no big deal.
We took 4 months off and cruised from Fort Lauderdale up to the Hamptons. It was a spectacular 4 months. And right towards the end of it, in the middle of the night, Sabrina woke up very ill. And she's young. She's 19 years younger than I am. So only one of us is supposed to get old and tired, not her. And she was 6. We took her to the hospital. And they had, within the next week, diagnosed her with cancer and gave her 90 days to live, which was pretty traumatic, as you can imagine, for those that have suffered through that. So we actually celebrated Christmas in October. So I'm sitting here saying, okay, we got a house in Hawaii, a house in Newport Beach, we have a house in Virginia, we have a house in Las Vegas, we have yachts, we have cars. Crap, I got to take care of this if she dies. So we quickly started getting rid of some of the excess we had to make my life a little easier. And then, blessedly, she lived. So I've been trying to convince her now for the last several years to buy a bigger yacht so we can do more of that. She's still fighting me on it, but we'll see what happens.
Good luck.
And it was kind of funny because usually if you buy a big yacht, we paid $6.5 million for that yacht, you're going to take a 50% loss within an hour. Our captain, we flew back from the Hamptons back to Las Vegas to take her to some specialists. And the captain took the boat back to Fort Lauderdale, and he calls me a week later and says, some guy just walked up and said, is the owner here? And the captain said, no, the owner's in Las Vegas. Well, could you get him on the phone? Hi, this is Mike. Can I help you? Would you sell your lot for $6 million? And I thought, of course, it was a joke. I said, only if you can close in a week. He said, I can close in a couple days. That was one of the best days of my life.
Yeah.
Let me tell you.
Wow.
So we got lucky. We sold it for almost what we paid for it.
What
a
a
couple
great
years
day.
later. Yeah.
Because that would have been quite a haircut. $3.5 million bucks.
That's what you take on a big yacht. And ours was it was 90 some feet, so it was big by standards. But in Fort Lauderdale, it was a dinghy. Because in Fort Lauderdale, they have the big yachts.
How big are they making them now?
Oh gosh, you're talking about 250 to 350 feet. You're talking $300 to $400 million for a boat.
Yeah.
And I guess they don't like it when they call them a boat.
Yeah, it's a ship.
It's a ship.
Yeah. So see that? We got to set our goals higher.
That's right.
I need a $300 million boat in my life. So the next question is from Tim Barker. So shout out to Tim. It seems you've softened your stance a little bit on buyer's agents, and coming into the next cycle, what do you think is a good mix of listings to buyer side transactions?
Well, it depends on whether you're going to be a team or not.
Okay.
Tim, no matter what you say, the money in real estate is with listing property. If you look at the profile of the highest paid agents in the industry, they're all listing agents. The advent of KW is pushing teams so hard, and God bless Gary because he's a genius, Gary Keller, that started the company. I would say the majority of all cases, teams don't work because an agent tries to get 4 or 5 people to work instead of the agent working, which in essence makes you a mini brokerage inside of a brokerage. Mm-hmm. So I've never been a big fan of buyer's agents unless a listing agent can take enough listings to feed the buyer calls to the buyer's agent. Because they can't take enough listings, they then go to Zillow, et cetera, and buy leads. That's expensive. And the closing ratio is probably 1%. Mm-hmm. So I've never been against buyer's agents. In fact, we've trained thousands of them. The misconceptions about me, there's more misconceptions than there are people in hell, okay? I mean, it's always been that way. So Tim, I'm all for buyer's agents provided you can generate leads to the listings you take. I coach 3 of the best agents in the nation today, Josh Barker, John Ames, and Bernie Gallerini. And we have an up-and-coming star, Regina Drury, out of the East Coast that is going to be in that same category very soon. They all understand what I'm saying. So they all have buyer's agents, but each one of them will list 100, 150, 200 homes a year. And that supply of leads goes to those buyer's agents to sell their listings.
Yeah. To your point, what a lot of people do is they get a little transaction momentum, and then they want to start a team, and then all of a sudden they bring on 4 people, but they slow their production down, and now all of a sudden they're really just a manager to these 4 people, and they don't have the transaction volume to support it, and then now you have to buy leads, and now you're in a completely different business. You're not in the I'm a person that sells houses business. Now you're in the I manage people and I motivate people and train people. And what are your thoughts on Zillow seeming to enter the iBuyer market with the open door style, like we'll buy your house, cash?
Well, I mean, how many flippers are there on TV?
Yeah.
They're a bigger flipper. Yeah. Okay. And I think in essence what they are is they're going to play a part in that flipping of homes. Mm-hmm. Okay. I mean, Blackstone, one of the richest companies in the world, I don't know if what I'm going to say is 100% correct, but I've been told they own like 80,000 residential homes. Okay. 80,000. And even if I've screwed up and it's only 70,000. Okay.
Right.
So that type of thing has been around forever. My concern for Zillow has always been the same. They're going to be in the mortgage business. They're going to be in the house flipping business. They control tens of millions of names of potential buyers. Mm-hmm. When are they going to flip the switch and start saying, you can just list your home with us?
Right.
And everybody says it's never going to happen. Richard Smith, who is one of the geniuses of the industry, the chairman of Realogy, retired. I said to him a couple of years ago, it's only a matter of time, in my limited, small, minute opinion, that Zillow will flip the switch. And he looked at me and said, it's never going to happen in 100 years, and walked away. Well, that was before they went into the mortgage industry. Mm-hmm. That's before they started buying properties. It's the evolution, okay?
And to your point earlier, it's about the investors, right? Yeah. If flipping the switch is what they need to do to make the investors the money that they need to make them,
publicly held company stockholders demands there's going to, the stock has dropped recently pretty substantially, but so has Realogy's, which is in the listing and selling business. So, it's another one of those things we have to look at. Now, let me ask you a question. Tim, are you concerned about Zillow buying a property that you're trying to list? And if you're not, who cares what they do? I care about my goals. Somebody said to me, how concerned are you about your competition? I said, I'm not. They said, why? I said, I'm concerned about achieving the goals I've set.
It's a great way to look at it.
Yeah, I work on my business plan, not yours.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I can't control what I do most of the time, much less what you do.
So just block out the noise and focus on your own business plan.
Yeah, that's all you can do.
I love that. It's great sound advice. This was kind of an interesting question from Eric Gilman. Shout out to Eric. What are your thoughts on gifting and best gifting practices?
If you want to send me a gift, I'm an extra large. Okay. Are you talking about gifts for buyers and sellers?
I think more just gifting as a general practice in business.
Well, I would have to ask you to be more specific. People used to say to me, do you give closing gifts to your buyers?
Okay, let's use closing gifts. That's a perfect example.
I never gave a closing gift. I felt the quality of the service I offered was the best gift I could give. Mm-hmm. And I would kiddingly say once in a while to somebody that I knew well that was a buyer or seller, a client of mine that was also a friend, they'd say, am I going to get a closing gift? I said, I don't know. What are you going to get me? Okay. I did all the work and you had the luxury of me handling your transaction. So we always made it fun, but I never gave a gift. Okay. And I don't give gifts today. I'm sitting in New York City at the NAR convention many years ago, and I'm sitting with a wonderful guy who is a competitor and a friend, and just a wonderful person. And one of the big shots from NAR sits down with us, and my friend then reaches over and takes out this box and says, I wanted to give you this gift. And the guy opens it up, and it was, a $200 pen. And the guy goes, thank you, that is so nice of you. He said, well, I wanted to give that to you. And the guy looked at me and said, do you have a gift? I said, yeah, I'm going to be the best speaker at your convention. My gift is to your audience.
And how did that go?
He didn't like it. But I'm not a big believer in gifts. Okay, now I will lavishly give gifts to my family.
Yeah.
And we give away a lot of money to charities that we think are important. So that's the kind of gift giving I believe in.
Okay, fair enough. So,
hey, you never told me this was going to be this much fun.
Okay, good. I'm glad you're having a good time. I'm having a good time too.
Good.
This is very insightful too, so definitely appreciate it.
You guys okay on drinks and everything? Can I get you some water or anything?
Nope.
I think we're good. Yeah, we're almost done. I just got a couple more.
Someday I have to speak for 8 hours without a sip of water. Remember, I'm 73. Then I have to go to the bathroom. So I can't be drinking while I'm speaking.
So one thing that you said a while back was that you've made most of your money after 50.
Yes.
And I always found that interesting. How and why do you think that happened?
I had a conversation this morning with one of my coaching clients who just turned 50, okay, and really a successful agent out of a little tiny town in the mountains of Arizona. And she said to me, why do you think we're more successful after age 50? I said, because time is not working against us. You're on the other half of your life and your time is limited.
Wow.
I said, you had from 0 to 50 to learn how to do what you're going to do. And now you have 10, 20, maybe 30 years to execute. So I said, I think that anybody that is thinking, and this lady is a great thinker, like yourself and Sam, you're going to execute at a higher level because you've built up enough knowledge to now go out and execute. And if you look at all the fortunes, with the exception of a couple of the technology fortunes, almost all the money's been made after age 50 by everybody forever. So I kid with my children and I kid with my friends that you have to look forward to being 50 because now you're smart enough to do something with your life. When Sabrina turned 50 a couple of years ago, it was one of these, yay, I'm now smart enough to do something. And Matthew turned 50, my oldest son, a couple of years ago, and he said, Dad, I'm now smart enough to do something. Because I believe that it takes a lot of knowledge to make a lot of money unless you do something lucky. I'm not talking about winning a lottery. Okay, I'm talking about going out and creating and earning. You and Sam are so far ahead of the curve in your learning, okay, for your age. But you'll really discover that when you get into that late 40s and early 50s, all that you've learned can now be put into effect. So don't stop learning just because you think you're smart.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's been a good theme of this episode too, is the continuing getting better and improving and learning more and just getting better at your craft and your business and earning.
That's right.
Learning the whole game.
And by the way, if you're a real estate agent and you're not setting aside 30% of the money for taxes, start, because every year there's a certain number of agents that have to leave the industry because they're being chased by the IRS.
Because they forgot to pay their tax bill.
$7,000 commission check is not your money until your taxes have been paid. Okay?
Yeah, amen to that. That's one bill you're not getting out of. Okay, so what about, I want to talk about real estate on the investing side. Okay. What is Mike Ferry investing in on a real estate perspective?
Well, we invest in a lot of odd things which most people would not agree with. We have about 200 original pieces of art that we own, worth millions. I decorate my wife like a Christmas tree with expensive jewelry, okay? And I love doing it, and that stuff, the art and the jewelry goes up in value.
Yep.
In many cases, it's gone up in value more than some of our real estate. We buy antique books. We buy first edition books. I probably have about 40 first edition books. I have first edition of Think and Grow Rich signed by Napoleon Hill. Okay, it was very expensive, and it's a treasure. Right. It goes up in value. We also own a couple of very nice. We used to have 4 homes, but as I got older, 2 was enough. And I kiddingly say, I feel like a poor person. I only have 2 houses to live in, right? But they're not bad places to live.
It's beautiful.
So my theory on investing and all of our investment properties, my theory is how quickly can you get them to be free and clear? So all of our properties are free and clear, no mortgage. So if there's a dip, my cash flow continues.
Yep.
And if there's a vacancy, it doesn't make any difference because I have no expense on those properties. So I tell all of our good clients, buy real estate because you're never going to lose. Okay, I mean, and if you lose, it is such an exception. But then pay it off, because it's not whether you own 100 properties; it's how many properties do you own that pay you a lot of income.
And how much cash flow is coming in?
How much cash flow? So I'm very old-fashioned in that area. So we invest. Like for example, I haven't owned a car since I was 20, because I don't buy depreciating assets.
Yeah.
And I have Rolls Royces and Bentleys, and we have nice cars, but I lease them. Okay, the only stupid investment I ever made was the boat, and we got lucky and got out of it.
Yeah, you sure did.
That was very lucky. So, if you're going to invest in real estate, which you should be doing, you should also set up a plan on every property to how fast can you pay it off.
Love that.
And create the cash flow.
Advice. And I didn't know you were such an art buff. So now I'm curious as to what's your favorite piece that you have in your collection?
There's an artist out of Spain named Royo, R-O-Y-O. He's probably the only living master in the world today. And we're his largest individual collector. Cool. I think we have about 30 of his pieces in our office building and in our homes. And so I'm a big fan of Royo. He only paints his daughter. And I had dinner with him in Laguna Beach a couple of years ago, and we're the same age. He looks like he's 100, okay? He's a real handsome little Spanish man, probably 5 foot tall, long gray hair, long stringy beard, and smokes about 3 packs a day and drinks coffee and wine all day long. And I said, I'm going to send you a gift. What's that? I'm going to send you a carton of cigarettes. He said, why? I said, because you keep smoking, you're going to die, and my artwork will all double in value. So I don't have a single piece. We collect a lot of different artists. I buy art because I like it, not because it has a name, but because the stuff we buy keeps going up in value. I keep buying more of it.
Yeah.
And I don't talk about that. Most people don't know that we have a pretty substantial. We have 200 pieces. There's museums, for God's sakes, of one person that has 5,000 pieces. But for us, it's a lot of art, and we enjoy it, and so it's just a personal thing.
Yeah, that's very cool. I never knew that about you. Yeah. I like that little tidbit.
Many secrets.
Yeah, look at that. They're all coming out.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So I want to wrap up with just what would be like a State of the Union advice for the real estate community moving forward.
I said to Oliver when he arrived a couple hours ago, Mike Ferry's 2019 market report, this will go online probably in the next 5 to 6 days. We'll send it out via email to all of our customers first.
Cool. And we'll put the link in with the video too, so you can get that.
We'll send it to all of our broker customers to share with their agents. It's only like 6 or 7 pages. But it really discusses this whole concept of what a real normal market looks like. And I'll just refer to it for a second. I'll say normal. Listing inventories are growing again, meaning buyers have choices. When buyers have choices, prices go flat or decline. That's normal, okay? Normal, okay? We're moving quickly from a seller's market to a buyer's market, which makes sellers unhappy and buyers very happy. Who do you want to be with, happy or unhappy people? Normal. Listings that used to never expire now expire every day because we overpriced them for the last 5 years. Yep. Normal. Listings be on the market for extended periods of time. So I give about 15 examples of what a normal market is. And then I give 8 examples of what anybody can do to counter that if they want to. So the market report will be online and they can download it and hopefully they'll understand it because I put it in pretty simple language because I'm a simple guy and they can use that to their advantage. This is your time if you're good. If you're no good, get good fast.
I love that. I'm going to put a pretty little bow on it right there because I think that was the perfect way to end it is get good fast, improve your skills, continue down the path of lifelong learning, and have some fun while you're doing it. So really appreciate this interview. I appreciate you having us over at your house and just being able to have a great conversation with a man I have a lot of respect for and has given us a lot of great guidance over the years. And we'll look forward to doing this again. And really appreciate it, Mike.
Thank you, Oliver.
Now you're in the know.